It's incredible how fast it changes, and we are in front of another breakdown, another revolution, like video generation, right? So there will be another breakthrough. The Sora that OpenAI is showing up. Yeah, as I said, exciting times.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Top of the Hunt. Today we have Tom with us, who's created the No Code Leaderboard. They achieved third product of the day. It's our first interview where somebody's created something specifically for no code people. So it's interesting, perhaps for a different demographic to what a lot of this content's been for before. So without further ado, Thomas, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello. Well, thank you for having me. My name is Tom. I live in Poland, in Krakow, doing a lot of stuff for no-code people, being in no-code industry for around 4 years now, but in the IT industry for over 20. So yeah, a little
Okay.
bit old. And
So, what's your background then from in the industry? Were you working in big companies, small companies? Or what brought you to the
uh,
idea of no code?
yeah, actually, my whole background is around entrepreneurship and running my own business. I started my
Okay.
first when I was 19. It was a long time ago. 24 years ago. It was a company that was creating websites for other companies. So it was pretty new that time because the internet was just becoming more and more popular and the companies didn't have the websites. So I basically started with creating websites. And yeah, I started doing money on this and the company was growing. Then we switched to creating more sophisticated software using internet. We branded to Internet Software House. And then in 2012, I sold my shares. The company was pretty big. That time it had over 250 people. And yeah, I went into the startup business, started creating things from scratch again. And in 2016, I started a new venture called Edward. It was an AI assistant. So again, the days it wasn't that popular to do AI. We did a lot of market evangelization about AI and stuff. And in 2020, when I had more time due to pandemic and staying at home, I started looking for some technologies that will allow me to again build from scratch. When I started over 20 years ago, I was building everything by myself. Then I was more like a business person because the company was big and I was mostly focused on managing sales, marketing, and so on.
Mm.
But I wanted to get back to building, yeah. And I found Bubble, the tool that allowed me to again get back into building, and I fell in love with Bubble and I started building things with Bubble. And this is how I went into the no-code space.
That's an interesting journey. I think it seems to be more common these days that you've got people who know how to code, perhaps coming towards some of the no code tools and treating them more as low code tools. So obviously you're able to do things on top of Bubble that I would never be able to dream of. So it's an interesting journey. Have you found a lot of people coming down that path?
Yeah, actually, when I speak with people from no code, there are two common paths. So the first one is people have no idea how to build stuff, no idea how to code, never touched code before, but they just have a dream about the product, about the new venture, about building something. And they start doing some courses, they just start building. And they found out that this is a new way for them to launch things, to be able to launch products they dream of
Mm.
without even having a CTO, without having a technical people. And there is a lot of people around no code doing that. We call them as citizen developers, like the people who didn't know how to code, but they've managed to do uh, magnificent stuff with no code. And the other part is the people who were in coding or were doing some software related business. And they went in the no code to build things faster with ease, right? Because for the people who were in software industry who touched the code, when you go into the no code, the low code, it's pretty easy for you to start because you just have a graphical user interface over the code you've previously written. So yeah, these are the two common paths in the no code I see.
Okay. So the tool you've developed, what's it for, and how does it help people in their day-to-day activities with no
Yeah,
code?
actually, this tool that was in on the product hunt, this leaderboard, is a side product from the main one. The last year or over a year now. Yeah, I've built a tool called No Code Time Tracker for the people who are building stuff on no code to be able to automatically track their activities in editor and provide them with reports and so on. So basically a time tracking, but dedicated for no code people. Works with Bubble, Webflow, Flutter, WeWeb, the popular no code editors. And yeah, it was growing pretty steady. A lot of people were interested, and it has some steady user base. And last year, around November, one of the early Clue users, his name is Foluzo, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, I was watching Clue. I really love the product, and how about doing some kind of a leaderboard around it to build some kind of a community around it?" And he said that he can help me building that. Yeah, I was more focused on building the core product. And yeah, we started talking. We started doing the first initial version in December, in January, and yeah, and then in finally in March we launched with the no code leaderboard as a place where all the people who would like to share their progress from Chloe can do that. Yeah, and it was huge success because actually people love gamification, love sharing their progress and compare them among other no code developers. So basically, from the technical side of view, from the technical perspective, no code leaderboard is just another front end for cluee.app, for the main product, for the tracker, and it
Okay.
allows you to showcase your progress, showcase your work among other no code developers. So yeah, it's more like a lead magnet, but right now it's more popular than the no code tracker itself.
Yeah. So the no code tracker, we'll go into that a little bit first, if you don't mind, and then we can go into the
Yeah.
leaderboard. So, what is the purpose of that? How does it help people?
Basically, it's for both for freelancers and for agencies
Right.
to automatically track time they spend. Because when you work on the projects, you are curious of how much time did you really spend on building product, especially when you work with clients, right? For that, it allows you to automatically track time you spend and then generate a report from that. You can basically download the time report, add some manual data entries to it, and invoice clients, right?
Okay.
So this is for the from the freelancers perspective. And from the
Yeah.
agencies, from the no-code agencies, they are interested on how the people work to provide a better accuracy when pricing projects, for example, for
Mhm.
clients, to be able to know if the project is still profitable or not, and so on. So the teams and the freelancers, but also a lot of people just do it for fun, right? To track time.
I can see the use case on all three of them. Obviously, when you're managing your money, it's incredibly important to know that you're on track with the budget and everything. But then for an
Yeah,
individual user, I suppose it's a bit like having a GitHub repo, isn't it? Where you've got all of your commits and you can look through things and they'll be able to know, right, then this project, even though it's a side hustle and I'm doing it, I thought I was spending 10 hours a week on it and I'm not, I'm spending 25. So my
yeah,
wife's shouting at me for not doing my chores. I now know why. Or you can reverse, you can say to your wife, actually, I said I was going to do 20 hours a week and I've only done 16. So please leave me alone for the next 4. So I can see that the quality of life benefit that would have for people. And it's,
yeah, and
and it,
actually, yeah, and actually for the private people, for the freelancers or for the builders, for the no-code builders, I was looking for a way to attract users to provide more value. And the leaderboard, we found out that the leaderboard is the value for them, yeah, because they can not only view the stats, the time tracked by themselves, but they can actually share the world, right?
yeah. Because I suppose there's a couple of benefits from in there, isn't there? You've got one, if somebody was a freelancer and they're saying to somebody, I'm incredibly productive and I can work on bigger projects with
Yeah,
agencies and that I can be the top developer. It's a lot of social proof for them, and perhaps a
yeah,
bit more than social proof. It's a quantifiable proof. I'm very good at my job and I'm very effective. Yeah, I can see the value in that there. And also on the flip side, a leaderboard would help me if I came in. I used to use Webflow. I've not
mhm,
used it for a while now, but I liked it. I wasn't very good, but it was more, we were working on a side project once and my business partner's like, oh, we need to get a website done. I was like, oh, I've just seen this new cool tool. And at the time, it was, did you know Flux, who makes the YouTube channel? I was under his I think I was his 15,000 or something subscriber back when it was a very small channel, to the point where he used to reply to all the comments himself. And that was how long ago it was, maybe 7, 8 years ago or something. And it was an interesting journey. As I say, I wasn't very good, but to have known for me how long I spent on a project and how long somebody else would have spent on the same project to achieve a similar outcome, I would have realized quite quickly, actually, you're not very good at this, and this isn't a very productive use of your time.
Yeah.
Probably pay somebody else and do something different.
Yeah,
So
and the
that,
main thing is that the whole tracking is in the background, right? It's fully
yeah,
automatic. So this is the real value for the people who are using the traditional trackers that are not doing the time tracking automatically, and it fits into the editor and it gets information about the projects automatically also from the editor, right? So this is the real value, that is automatic and built for no code.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it works with everybody. So I suppose if you had somebody who was to go from working, and you said WeWeb, they're like a better version of Webflow for like web apps, aren't they? So that's where you'd usually go. And then you said Flutterflow as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're obviously more for Flutter apps. So I suppose if you had somebody jumping between the two, that tracking would be next to impossible without your tool. If they were working for two different freelance projects, it would be impossible to do.
Yeah, not impossible, but harder, right? Because they need to either use some general time tracking tool that doesn't divide the time into the projects automatically. You will need to do it manually, right? To turn on and turn off.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
great. So from the leaderboard, obviously you're starting to attract more customers in. You've had that initial idea from there, and then did you validate it much with the community, or did you say we're going to build this and let's go for it?
No, basically with no code, you are just building and validating the real product with the community, because building is so fast that the better way is to showcase something, to show something that you've built and then make a validation on it, because the building is pretty fast, right? Sometimes to build something is faster than to create some presentation prototype and validate it just like this. So this is the power of no code also, that you can validate not only the ideas or the PowerPoint presentation, but actually the real products, right? Yeah, we've released the first version. It was 3 weeks before the product hunt launch, and before that we sent an early access for the most active clue time tracker users, so they started using it, the ranking started to grow, and then we released it on public on Twitter, and then the product hunt.
Okay, fantastic. So did you spend a lot of time promoting Product Hunt, or you listed on there?
Actually not. I think that we might have prepared it in a better way. The whole preparation was just the product hunt, filling up the form, sending a newsletter to our users, yeah, posting on Twitter and on LinkedIn, and that was all. On the couple of groups that I'm also active, some no-code groups. And yeah, the no-code community is pretty small, but also pretty active. So the users took it from there and started clicking, and we landed on third place. So pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. No, it's a fantastic achievement. Did you aim for third or the top five, or did you have an aspiration?
Uh, I was looking for top three. I was dreaming of being in top three. So yes.
You've realized your dream. That's fantastic. So it must have been a good feeling when you eventually made it. I know on the day that you launched Alfred, which has been a tool that's been around for a long time, you managed to come above them. I thought a tool that's been over and over again would have been a lot harder to beat than
Yeah.
somebody
Mhm.
who's brand new. So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah. Basically, if you are brand new and you have zero community, we had some initial users from the tracker, from Cluey. I'm pretty active in the no-code community itself.
Mhm.
If you have zero community and zero reach, I think there is no use to launch with Product Hunt, because we will get only a few votes right now. It's a big machine that you need to really be in for a long time. At least you will need to have a community. Also, you cannot just launch and promote and hope the users will sign up on Product Hunt and start voting, because the new users, the Product Hunt is dropping down those votes. So yeah, it needs to be prepared. If you are launching just like a new product with zero users, there are a lot of platforms that allows you to do this, not actually Product Hunt. So yeah, this would be my advice if you want to launch.
It's good advice. I've seen a few people start a couple of weeks before from zero, and they've utilized a different social media platform, and eventually they've gone on to do quite well. But they strategically chose quieter days because they knew today I don't have a community, but I know that some people will be interested and they'll join, and then we'll take it from there. I think
Mhm.
overall, perhaps certainly there's certain days that are not as useful as others. So from there, what would you do differently if you were going back again, or when you go back again?
I don't know if we will be able to, even if we will do everything like all the people say that you need to do. So, for example, start promoting a few weeks before, getting followers, doing some marketing around it. I don't know if we will be able to reach the number one, because the number one was around 800 votes and we got around 250, right? So there's a huge difference. And it was on Friday, right? So not very popular day. But definitely, yes, the tool was launched, for example, on day one, and the product hunt launch was on day 10, right? So we didn't have the time to promote it properly. But if you want to do it for real, you will need to start promoting it a few weeks before, right? At least, I don't know, three weeks before, getting followers, writing to people, and so on, then reminding people that you are launching, and then creating a page with upcoming launch, and then the real launch. And we did all of this in 2 days, right? The day before and the day on launch. So not a real strategic launch, but yeah, the more I'm happy that we landed on number three, on the
Yeah.
top three.
No, I think because of your perhaps lack of preparation and the lack of time that you put in compared to some of the people that would have ranked below you is a testament to the market wanting your product more, because there'd have been more organic upvotes within the
Yeah,
platform because you've not promoted it to any people, and there's not been anybody. I've seen sometimes there seems to be a bit of a reciprocation game. So if you vote for me, then I'll vote for you, and obviously that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
it's not the best way to do things, because it's if I'm going to use your tool and I see it is valuable, then I should give you an upvote. But if
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't see it's valuable, just I might like you and I can give some feedback or something,
yeah.
and try and be helpful in a different way. But
Yeah, we didn't do any of that. So the whole traffic is organic. Wait, not organic. It's from the current users and from the no-code community. The product is also quite unique, right? Because there's around no-code, there is a leaderboard, so it's quite unique in terms of the no-code. It's not another AI wrapper or another marketing tool. It's the uniqueness you've got, right? So it's also the thing. And the most important thing was landing in top five after 4 hours, right? So I think that's the most important thing, because if you land in top five, you can be visible for all the people visiting product hunts. If you are below, there is zero possibility that you will rank in top five.
I've seen it a few times, and it's if you don't hit the morning with a sprint, then it can be a very long day.
Yeah,
So it's good advice. So from there, will you be going back to Product Hunt again for another launch? Are you going to be developing more
yeah,
extensions?
yeah. We are for sure. We need to do a product launch for Clue finally, for the main product. But I think we will do this will be bigger, and we'll do some more preparations before that. So possibly for a few months, I will get back to Product Hunt. Yeah, we got a pretty cool traction, around 1,000 visitors a day. And it didn't end at the day of launch. So this is also interesting, because then we were featured in the newsletter. Then we've got the fourth product of the week in terms of the development tools. So yeah, it went for a couple of days. So this is also interesting, that it's not only on day one. And today, also each day, the product is getting upvotes, right? We ended up at around, I don't remember, 260 or below 300. Right now we have 350, right? So it's going, the people are still upvoting it.
No, it's interesting. So it's perhaps long tail effects you didn't anticipate, which can be useful.
Yeah.
So when you go back with your main tool, are you going to be offering like another type of lead magnet, as you called it, in a different tool that way before you go, or are you just going to go back with the main product?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure. I think these lead magnets are pretty interesting, because they are not only magnets, but they also provide some fun and some value for
Mhm.
the community. So if we will find a new cool idea around the main product, we'll build another product and launch. Again, with no code is the whole no code leaderboard thing. I said that Foluzo, he reached out to me in November, but we weren't building for 3 months. Actually, the whole product was built around a week or so. Yeah, so it was pretty fast to build it
That's fantastic.
once we finally had time for it. So you can launch these side products pretty fast.
So, which no-code tool did you use yourself?
I'm using Bubble.
Still,
I started with Bubble. I felt with Bubble. I think it's the most powerful tool. You can build nearly anything with Bubble. And I also use Xano as a backend for most complex projects. Like, for example, this tracker thing uses Xano backend because the amounts of data it's processing. With Bubble and Xano, you can basically build anything if you want. There's no limits.
okay, and I think one of the things I've seen certainly on Reddit and other places is people when they're coming to no code, and I fell victim of it myself. I looked at trying to create like an MVP when I was speaking to my then technical co-founder, and I came to a similar conclusion where I think this will be quicker than Figma to build something because I don't know Figma. So I'm going to have a learning curve anyway, and then because I knew Webflow a little bit, I started with WeWeb because placed themselves as quite a similar tool.
Yeah, the interface is similar. So if people are coming from WeWeb, from Webflow, the WeWeb is similar for them. They rarely go to Bubble because Bubble has its own logic, the own logic in editor, which is completely different from Webflow.
Okay. It would have been useful for me at the time to have had some type of indication of from an independent party say this is the requirements of what you're trying to build, and this might be the proposed tech stack. Because I think right now a lot of times I've seen people and they seem to be we are no coder like yourself, Bubble, and that's all they do, or they might be in Webflow. This is all that they do, and then you're in a position where you might like the person, watch their content, but then be where you're still not choosing the right tool for your project that you're trying to do, and then you might have to change if you try to do WeWeb and you actually wanted to make a native app, for example. It's going to be a very complicated process. If you were doing
Yeah,
perhaps Flutter Flow, then Flutter's not as good on the web or as native to the web
yeah,
as WeWeb. Do you know? So something along those lines, I think, would be interesting for a lot of people and might help add to your community. And from there, you'll have a lot of statistics to be able to say to people, actually, backed by statistics, this type of tool is the most productive. If you've got 10 hours a week, then this one might be a good one for you. If you've got 20 hours, it might
yeah,
be this.
yeah. That's pretty interesting, yeah. Because
So,
that also fits to the next steps that we want to introduce. I think it will be next week or so, not only to showcase your time stats, but also to showcase your projects. So combining this with the technologies you're working on and showcasing your projects may also give the people an idea what you can build with such a technologies.
yeah. And then if you were to show somebody the time that person's using the platform, it would help me to know that this person's actually an experienced Bubble developer. It's not like me starting from
Yeah,
0 point and I've got a long learning curve. But then you could say, and realistically, so this type of project could take this type of time. It would
yeah,
be very useful, I think, for if I wanted to go and hire a freelancer to build a project, I would know the ballpark. And then likewise, if you're doing it, I can see the value in that for a lot of people.
yeah.
It's an interesting idea. And I suppose it then puts you in an interesting position where it's a combination of Behance, a freelancer type website, and then perhaps like a marketplace as well, where people could come and do all of the above. It'll be interesting. I hope that part works out. It's an interesting development.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal. If you have a lot of freelancers on the platform and you have people interested in building to match them.
Yeah.
But right now, we still need to grow the user base and focus on the traction. And then who knows, right? There are a lot of paths. The whole no-code industry is pretty young, right? It's growing exponentially. It started growing combined with all this AI popularity and all the stuff, but we are still at the beginnings. So who knows what will be the future for both the no-code and the leaderboard, right?
No, definitely. It's interesting that I know our developer, he's got a background in Unity. So he's primarily used
Hmm.
Unity for the types of games and things that his
Hmm.
company's built. But then obviously, because he's got a computer science background, he can learn or build anything. So we've
Yeah,
often said to him, oh, can you go and build this? And he's just, of course I can, but I'm going to have to go and learn something. There's a learning curve. There's how long's a piece of string is usually his time frame for building something. So I think somebody like him to come to a no code as a single developer would be incredibly useful for them to come into industry and do things. So from there, obviously, you've got a lot of insights into users and how they use these different no-code tools. What would be the best one for a marketer, for example, with Webflow experience to come along and build an MVP for, I don't know, what would the most popular thing be? Some type of delivery
mm,
app or something?
Yeah, if you are using Webflow, you can basically stay in Webflow. There are a number of tools that you can connect to Webflow to build an app. For example, Whist,
Yeah.
right? So there is a app development on top of Webflow. So if you are fluent in Webflow, you should stay with Webflow because there is no use to learn other things. Because if you want to move more into the app development, WeWeb is maybe a good choice because it has a similar interface to Webflow, but you need to take care of the backend as well. So WeWeb is just the front end, right? So you need to be able to set up a backend as well. On the other hand, Bubble has its huge advantage that this is a full stack development platform. Basically, you have everything in one place. You open the editor. Once you get used to it, you can basically build anything in Bubble without going to external tools. You have database, you have workflows, you have design, you have the hosting server and all that stuff in Bubble. So that's the main difference between, for example, building on WeWeb and Bubble, then in Bubble you have everything in one place, which is easier to build once you get fluent in it because you don't have the complications of external tools. And the more external tools you have, the more tools you are connecting, the more problems you may have, right? So this is the thing with Bubble, and this is why a lot of people love Bubble.
That makes sense because I suppose it's when you don't have a developer's background, you think in a different way. That's one of the key differences I've learned from working so closely with a developer for the
Mm-hmm.
last however long we've been working on our project now. Is his logic's very different. So there's a joke I saw before where a wife says to a husband, "Can you go to the shops and get a bottle of milk? And if there's eggs, can you get 12?" So he comes back with 12 bottles of milk, and everyone else is thinking, what on earth has he came back with 12 bottles of milk for? It's because that if statement in a
Yeah.
developer, it's a very different connotation, isn't it? And that's the point. If you don't understand how the logic works, then perhaps a bubble might be a better option because that logic's already built in. But if I was to go and try and look at building something in Xano or a different type of backend, I'll be absolutely clueless. So chances are I'm building tech debt from the very beginning.
Yeah,
And I
Xano
think,
is more for an advanced people. You need to get familiar with databases, with logic, with APIs. So yeah, a lot of people that come from the software industry, the software engineers, when they start working with Xano, they find it super useful because it allows them to build things fast. But if you have no clue and you open Xano, you get lost, right? You need to set up a database, you need to set up relations, you need to build APIs. In Bubble, you don't even you need to know what's the database, right? Because there's no such thing like database in Bubble interface. Of course, there is a database underneath, but you don't have to care about it.
so if somebody was to come along today and say, look, I'm going to build an MVP in Bubble, let's say, is there an upper limitation when that would no longer be a viable tool for them? But if they
In
brought in
terms
a CTO, would they say, look, we need to change because of XYZ now?
I think if you are just starting your business, the main thing is attracting users and getting their pain points and solving the problems.
Yeah.
So doesn't matter the tool you are building with because eventually we will also rebuild everything after a couple of months. On Bubble, you can stay on Bubble. You can start with Bubble. You can stay on Bubble, going up the plans. The main limitations of Bubble that you are when you are building in Bubble, you must stay in Bubble. You are not able to export the code, for example, in Flutterflow, because Bubble is just like a programming language. Like if it's built on Bubble, it should be run on Bubble. So this is the main limitation of Bubble and the lack of mobile apps, the native mobile apps, but they will be added this year. So if you
Okay.
want to build a mobile app today, you will probably go with Flutterflow. If you want to build a web app, you will probably go with Bubble or WeWeb or any other things. If you want to build some internal tool, you will probably watch out for other tools like Software. You just need to choose the right tool to the things you need to build. But there is no limitations in terms of, for example, you cannot do something with the technology. Most of the editors allows you to add plugins, add custom code on top of the things that you've built. So there is no limits right now today, right, in 2024, that something cannot be built with no code. We are of course talking about the apps, right, not about some deep tech software that needs to be hard coded.
Yeah, no, of course. I think most people, when they want to do something, in deep tech, etc., they already know where to go and what to do.
Yeah.
I know
That's true.
from a lot of the people I've spoken to over the years, and then more specifically recently with Product Hunt, people who've achieved the top 5 and have came onto the podcast. There's a few of them who potentially could have used no code for their solution, even though they could have coded. So it would have been interesting for them to have looked at the alternative way of going down that path. And I think for some things, if you're able to do it in Bubble in a weekend, and even if it took you 3 weeks, I'd rather spend a weekend to see if it's a valid idea than 3
Yeah.
weeks to find out it's not. And I
Yeah.
suppose that's the big pro, isn't it? The point of idea to validation or option ability to validate is a lot shorter.
Yeah, but the thing is that it's not longer only for MVPs, for validation, but you have to remember that you can stay on that and build a sustainable business with the no-code tech stack. There is a number of examples of the businesses that are running on no-code, on Bubble, on any others. You even don't know that they are running on Bubble, for example, right? Just a normal app. Yeah, you can do it.
That's fantastic. So for long term now, what's your plans for everything you're doing moving forward? Are you building out the tool, building out the community, and or are you going to add something crazy that's left field that no one's thought about doing?
Right now, it's hard to tell because the whole no-code movement is growing so fast. I'm definitely staying with this, staying with no-code and building things and see how it goes. Meeting interesting people because the no-code community is really helpful, and a lot of people I've met for the last 4 years still my friends. So yeah, I'm happy to be a part of it.
That's fantastic. The way that the Gutenberg press enabled everybody to be able to get something to read, I think no-code tools and low-code tools enable anybody who has an entrepreneurial spirit and a drive to say,
Yeah,
I don't need the money, I don't need the developer. I can at least try and do something, get it
yeah,
into the world and see if it's received. And that's a phenomenal thing. And it sounds like you've got an interesting role to play in the advancement of that. And I hope it continues to go well.
yeah. That's a huge change we are facing, and it's exciting to be a part of it.
Mhm. You know, it's crazy to think, isn't it, that somebody now could, I can imagine, fairly easily on any of the platforms, go from an idea, integrate an API for OpenAI or Claude
Yeah,
or one of these other tools, and they could have created an AI-driven app that's well prompted if they know how to do that, and the sort of the structure and OpenAI, wherever they might have done it. Whereas 3, 5 years ago, that was impossible. You
yeah,
know,
that was impossible even 3 years ago, right? So it's incredible how fast it changes, and we are in front of another breakdown, another revolution, like video generation, right? So there will be another breakthrough. The Sora that OpenAI is showing up. Yeah, as I said, exciting times.
it is. From there, is anything else you'd like to add or discuss?
No, I think that's again, thanks for having me. If you are interested in more no-code related topics, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I'm also doing a series of interviews with no-code agencies that are building a really advanced software, a really advanced stuff on top of no-code. So if you're interested in it, you can follow me. I'm posting an interview each week, and yeah, let's spread the news about no-code.
Yeah, of course. You're putting those on LinkedIn. You're also putting them on YouTube and other places for people to find them.
Yeah, there is. I'm teasing them on LinkedIn, but the main channel is, of course, the YouTube. It's called No Code Shorts, and you can find all of the videos, all of the interviews on No Code Shorts on YouTube.
I'll put the links in the description so people can find them easily. It's not a problem.
Perfect.
So it's from there. I think we're ready to wrap up. It's been wonderful speaking to you. I think it'd be interesting to talk to you again next time you have a big release of your product and you're coming back to Product Hunt, see how that's
Yeah,
treated you, and then how the no code industries perhaps move forward. Because I think from where it was when we started, perhaps with the first no code tools in probably WordPress, some of the drag and drop things like the Beaver builders back in the day, to where we are now, it's a different world. So I
yeah,
can only imagine in a year's time with advancements, it's going to be more exciting than just exciting times. It's going to be crazily different, I think.
yeah, that's true.
But thank you, Tom. I'll say goodbye for
Thank you.
now, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Have a nice day.
Thank you for coming. Bye.